Hi, everyone. This is Pam with PamTech Coding, and today we're going to do another bite of React. I've been doing these small lessons to teach you some really fundamental concepts in a very kind of simple and easy to follow way. And today we're going to learn about routing to different pages. So I am CSProfessor Pam, and I can help you level up your problem solving and coding skills through my YouTube channels, my Discord community, and individual project-based coaching. All right, so let me show you what I'm talking about. Again, we're going to do a very, very simple thing because I find that when I'm really trying to explain a concept, I want to make sure that we sort of remove all the fluff and get to it. So this is an example of routing. You see, I have a header here, and if I click on home, I'm going to be on the home page. I click on about, I'm on the about page. I click on products, I'm on the products page. The header is staying the same no matter what. And also, by the way, usually when you do something like this, your logo is a link back to your home page, and you'll see that that's what I have going on here. All right, so let's talk a little bit about what we see is happening. Because if you remember from HTML, in HTML, you do links using an A tag. And in the A tag, you have an href that gives you the URL of the site that you're going to. All right, but let's take a look at what's going on in our address bar here as we're clicking on different things. So localhost 5173, that's my root address of this project. If I click on about, look at what happens. There's something that gets added onto the end of my root address /about. If I click on products, again, I still have my root address, but it's /products. So that's a hint as to what's going on with routing and how things are happening. Let me explain the concept a little bit here. In React, all of your pages are connected to these URL routes. They're called routes, or sometimes they're called paths. And we are going to use a package, an NPM package called React Router DOM that kind of acts as the air traffic controller to route us to the correct page based on the URL in or the path that's there. So, what is my user story? As a user, I want to be able to navigate to different pages in my app. All right, so first of all, we are going to need to install this package from NPM. But let me go over to the app that we are going to be working on. So what I've done is cleaned out this app. There's nothing in it but just a hello, just so I know that everything is going on. This is the same GitHub repository I've been working on. So all of this work is going to be in one place. And I will put the link to this repository in the description. All right, so we have here, let's take a look at it again. There's a header component, and then there are 3 different pages: home page, about, and products. Let's just sort of set up the framework of this. Now, if you'll remember, in the very beginning, I suggested that the way I like to organize things in source is to have a folder called assets, which is images and things like that. A folder called components. Components are things that we use on a page, and then a folder called pages. And we haven't done any pages yet, so we're going to do that now for the first time. What I'm going to do first is go in here, and just to be consistent with what I've been teaching you guys, I'm going to create a folder for each one. So I'm going to have a folder called home, and inside of home, make sure that that's what's underlined. I'm going to make home.jsx. I'm not going to be doing any CSS right now on those pages. So just to keep things moving, I won't put the CSS, right? Let's do an RFCE and create our basic page here. Let's go back to pages. let's make another folder called About. And inside of About, I'm making about.jsx. Let's RFCE there. And let's do one more. Again, inside of Pages, I'm going to make a folder called Products. And I didn't spell it right, so let's rename it. And let me talk a little bit about naming, by the way, guys. Be consistent in the way that you use upper and lower case letters. If not, there can be some problems sometimes when you're getting ready to deploy your site because things are case sensitive on GitHub and when you deploy your site. So just notice how I'm being very consistent and naming my folders with a capital letter, the same as my components. And remember, the components have to start with a capital letter. So this is going to be products.jsx. And we RFCE that. All right. Now we also have a header over here. Okay, let's go. The header is going to be on every page. So I'm going to make the header as a component. And this component page distinction is not like a syntax requirement in React. It's just the way I like to organize things. So I'm going to make header, and inside of header, I'm going to make header.jsx, and I am going to do a little bit of styling in header. So I'm going to make header.css. Let's go in here, RFCE, and let's connect the CSS /header.css. All right, let's start with the header. So here's what I want. And again, I'm just kind of, framing this out. Usually you might have some picture or something for your logo. I'm just going to put the word logo, and I'm going to have these 3 links over here. And for the moment, we're going to use A tags because that's what we're used to for doing links, right? And if I look at the way I want this styled, when I'm building my HTML, I have to be mindful of the styling that I want to do. And if I'm going to use Flexbox to put these things all on the same line, but I want logo on one side and these 3 on the other side, then I am going to need 2 children inside of my main div. So I'm going here to my header page. And let's give this a class name of header container. And inside of it, I'm going to just make this a P tag for the moment. We're going to have logo, right? And then that's the first child. And then let's use a nav, and we're going to use A tags here. For the moment, I don't know what my href is. I'm just going to put hashtag, right? And we're going to have home. And let's copy this 3 times. And it's going to be about and products. All right. Let's take a look at this header on our app. So we need to go to app.jsx, and let's just put our header component in here. We're not doing routing yet. Okay, let's make sure that header is imported. And all right, so we see these things, but they're not being styled the way I want. My first step is to just make sure I'm seeing the components on the page. Now, let's do a little bit of styling. So let's go in here to header.css, header container. Needs to be display flex. And You'll see there that now everything is on the same line. As a matter of fact, why don't I change sort of sides here so we can kind of follow what's going on each time. Okay, let's give this a height of, I'm going to say 50 pixels, and I'm going to give it a background color. Just pick a color. Okay. And there we go. We see our color, we see that. So we're going to do display flex. We need to do justify content, space between. That's our horizontal alignment, right? So we see that over there. I'll just bring this down so we can watch it. And let's do align items, center. There we go. Yeah, so we're centered vertically inside of this. We probably want a little space inside of that. And so that's going to be some padding. I need 0 top and bottom, and let's just put 20 pixels left and right. Right? So you see how that moved inside. Okay. We need to get some space between these 3 things here. So let's take a look. And those are my navs, right? So let's go in here and do some styling on nav. And even though they're already on a line, we can say display flex so that we can control the horizontal alignment. I will justify content, space between, and this is a good lesson because you go, well, why didn't they move apart, right? I want to show you guys a trick sometimes that is useful. So let me give this a border of 1 pixel solid red, okay? And look, that's the space. Like if you don't specify a width, then the width of the content is just basically whatever the content is. So if I change the width of this to be maybe 30% of the parent, then you see that there is space to move them apart, okay? And the other thing we want to do is text decoration off. And normally I do this in my app.css, but I'm just going to do it here for right now. Text decoration, none. All right, let me go take a look at something real quick. Actually, let's do it here. In my app.css, I'm going to say for my A tags, that's what I need to put it on. Text decoration, none. All right, and that took care of that. Okay, so we don't need that here. All right, so that's our header. All right, now we need to talk about routing a little bit more. So remember I said there's a package that we need to install. So let's go over here to my terminal, and I'm going to pause my terminal, stop my terminal, and npm install react-router-dom. Okay, we could go take a look at the docs for that. Here's the getting started guide. And we could go over here and see some things, but basically, I am going to show you what you need over here. All right, but that's the documentation if you want to go take a look at it later. All right, now we need some things from React Router DOM. The things we need to use are something called browser router. Notice a capital B, capital R, routes, and route. All right, so let's go. And that needs to be in app.jsx. Now, first of all, let me start my app again. Okay, I'm going to app.jsx. I need to import in curly brackets, browser router, routes, plural, and route, singular, from React Router DOM. All right, now, the way this works, again, let's look at my working one. This header stays no matter what. What we are controlling is what goes here in the main content of the page. All right. So in order to do that, first of all, browser router has to be wrapped around everything. Browser router is like the air traffic controller. Okay. So here over in my app, where we've imported this, you see I have a parent div. Remember, you have to have just one parent div, and I've got just a blank div. I'm going to make browser router my parent. It's fine if you needed to put that inside of a div, but for this example, it's just easier for me to make that my parent div. Then header is happening everywhere, right? So it stays separate. Now I want a routes section. And notice browser router and routes. These are elements that have an opening and a closing tag. So some of them do. So you wrap them around something. So this is my section. And if I had a footer, for example, that was going to be the same on every page, my footer would go here. So anything that is before or after this routes section is going to stay on all pages. Okay. Now, let's set up our first route. So let me show you just another little slide about how routes work. Basically, when I'm doing a route, there's a user action that is triggering that I want to go to another page, right? In this case, I'm clicking on the link. When I click on that, that generates the path or the route in the URL. And I have to set up a route to let browser router know what page to go to when it sees this particular path in the URL. All right, this will make sense as we do it. So inside of routes, I want a route element, and notice it is a self-closing tag. My route needs to specify two things. I need to specify a path. So for the home page, it's going to be just my root ID, which is just slash. And then I specify the element that I want to be displayed. Pay attention to the syntax. Inside of element, I'm going to put my home element, right? If I was just showing this element on the page without routing, it would just be home like this, right? Just like this. But I am using route to say, when you see this in the URL, and slash just basically means whatever is your root URL, then I want you to see this page. Let's copy this. We're going to have two more, right? So I'm going to say, when you see about, I want it to connect to the about page. And remember, each time you need to import what you have. And when you see products, then I want you to connect to the products. Now, we're not done, but we can test our route right now to see if we have done those correctly. And the way we'll do that is here in the URL, if I do /about, you see it takes me to the about page. If I do /product, so look at what it says. No routes matched location /product. Because what did I say it was? Products, right? So if I put an S on it, then I'm on my products page. And if I take this off completely, I'll be back on home page. So browser router is looking at what it sees here. And if this is what it sees, if it sees this path /about, then it knows the element that it needs to show. And again, if you put in something like XYZ, it's going to say, you didn't tell me where to go for a path of XYZ, right? But one other thing I want to mention right now, these words don't have to match. I could say that I want the path to be about page, okay? And what that would mean is in here, I'd have to put about page. So browser router is the air traffic controller. It's looking at what's in here, and based on that, deciding which element to show in your DOM, right? But now we need to connect the header, the links in the header, to make sure that we get there. So, but notice this was an important step to test, because if there's something wrong with the syntax of how I set up these routes, I need to find that out now, okay? So let's go over to the header. And right now we're using A tags. And all I have to do to finish this up, if it's the home page, I just put a slash. That means we're not looking for anything else in the path, or we're not putting anything else. For about, and I want to change this back to just about, not about page. So this is what, when I click on the link, it is going to add this to the end of the root URL address, right? And by changing the URL, browser router can figure out what element to show. And so this one is going to be products. And also, well, let's just do this first. So if I click on products, you see the A tag put the /products in there. Browser router saw that and said products is the page that I show. If I go to about, the A tag put the about there. That's the page that I show. If I go to home, there's nothing in there. That's the page that I show. If I want this logo to take me back to home page, then we'll need to make it an A tag or put an A tag around it. But before I do that, I want to do one last thing. When you are actually doing React, then A tags are not the preferable thing to use, because an A tag will completely refresh your DOM, and you don't always want that. So what you typically use in React is a tag called link with a capital L, and you import it from React Router DOM. I'm going to change these A tags to link. And I've got an extension that automatically changes both of them when I do that. And for link, the syntax makes a little more sense. It's not href, it's to. I want to make a link to this particular path. Right? Let's make sure that still works. So about takes me to the about page, products, home, right? And so this logo, because maybe it is an image or something, I'm going to put a link around it. Who equals my root directory. And let's close it on the other side of that. And now products, about, that takes me to home, right? All my links are working. A little side note, remember how we got rid of the text decoration using the A tag, text decoration none? Well, a link in terms of styling kind of responds as an A tag. So I didn't have to do anything else once I changed it to a link to have that text decoration off, okay? So that's routing, right? And it's always easier to just kind of set up the framework of your whole house here. Then you can start building out page by page what you want to put in the content for home page, for about page, for products page. But you already know that your routing works, okay? Again, all we did was we installed React Router DOM. We imported these three things. Browser router, header is outside of that because it shows everywhere. Then I have my routes section. So this is the part that's making a decision based on what it sees in the URL. If I had a footer, I would put it outside here. And didn't have to do anything to these pages to make that happen. But in the header, this is where I have my links. And this is what generates or adds this path onto the end of the URL so that when it sees that in the URL, it goes to about. When it sees products, it goes to products, right? Simple and easy. Now, there's one other piece to routing. This is called static routing, but sometimes we need dynamic routing, meaning we need to pass some information, like if we're doing a details page, a detail on a product or a person or whatever, then we'll have to pass on some information about which product, which person. And we'll be doing that in a future lesson. But this is static routing in React. Hope it makes sense. If it doesn't, please ask questions. Please continue to work on this, learning all your one piece at a time. And I look forward to any comments you have on the videos. Let me know about other things that you might want to see. And keep learning and happy coding.